So, Amalia, I wanted to start with you. The film depicts this sort of Vice-like company that's producing a travel show, but then ends up faking this cultural phenomenon when they end up in the wrong country. I'm sort of wondering if you could talk about your interest in that very niche world of the media and how it sort of ended up transforming into the basis for a film.
Well, it's very niche, but it's also how, like, what I was surrounded with when I grew up, because my parents are, like, very brain-dead hipsters. They're Gen Xers, and my dad used to collect the original Vice magazines when they first came out, and he's a skater. And so I've been surrounded by that culture all my life. And then, obviously, I went to art school, and a lot of people that I knew worked there. So it's something I'm very familiar with, even if it's, like, technically a very niche world.
For the rest of you, I would be curious, what is the most egregious screw-up that you have experienced on a production?
Oh, man.
Hopefully nothing as bad as ending up in the wrong country.
It's always someone's.
I made an inappropriate joke recently in these times of being canceled that I don't want to repeat because I could get canceled again. And it was just a really innocent joke that was a sexual metaphor. And the producer on the first day goes, and I was like, okay. So basically the rest of the movie, I just shut up. So that was a close call.
I've never done anything wrong on set. No? I can't recall an experience, though.
I had many, like, funny experiences shooting El Planeta. Not necessarily fuck-ups, because I think we were extremely lucky and everything went according to plan and everything. But obviously we were dealing with a lot of extras that weren't even extras. They just happened to be there at the time we were shooting certain scenes. So I remember one time we were shooting at this cafe, and there was this old man who goes there every day, so we just let him be there. But he started farting very loudly throughout the scenes. And I think he couldn't really hear because he was kind of deaf. So that was like a funny thing to remember after the fact. Yeah.
I think there are lots of movies and or television shows when they were doing a scout, they didn't really like take in all of the elements of a location, specifically like a flight path over or like the entrance to a highway, or like I did this movie Bonjour Tristesse, and like they went to scout before the summer, and then summer started and there were so many boats and it was so loud, and for some reason nobody thought about that. So it's like I feel like that's just kind of a common mistake that happens a lot when scouting locations. It's like you just don't factor in everything all the time because there's so many different elements to an environment.
Sure.
I had an interesting thing where I went to this cafe and this young woman was directing a movie, and I was just really farting that day. And I actually am kind of deaf in one ear, but I just hope that they didn't notice ultimately. But
Chloe, I was kind of curious, when we meet Edna, both in the sort of prologue and then when they arrive in country for the shoot, she already seems sort of completely exasperated with the team and with her job. But we don't, because of the nature of the film, get a ton of backstory about really any of the characters. I'm wondering how you imagine she arrived at this place in her career where she's doing the show, but seemingly a little bit grudgingly.
Right. Well, Amalia and I talked a lot about women we know that are just always searching for some sort of like happiness and the answer through different like spiritual paths or, you know, yoga, Pilates, whatever it is, like that she's really unhappy in her life for probably a lot of reasons. And I think she's just like a grumpy gal. Maybe she's like perimenopausal. She's probably hormonal. I think there's like a lot of things going on with this woman.
But she also knows that her partner is messy. So I think like, you know, I think even if she like doesn't really know what's going on at that time, like everyone sort of knows that this is like the last episode probably, that like the network is not going very well, and like, you know, it's like
she's an idiot producer.
But I think like late 40s is a really complicated time for a woman, especially if you're like business is going to change and you had this great responsibility for so long. I think like the way people look at you, the way you look at yourself, it's like a very complicated like second adolescence, you know, and so I think, you know, I tried to funnel a lot of that into Edna.
Yeah. And I think, I was going to say, it's sort of like what you're doing is a kind of dying media that, like, as you can see in the film, that younger characters and local characters like Manchi, which is Camila's character, or Mateo, they're not interested and they don't want to be involved in whatever they're doing. And I think, the crew knows this, and that's why they're like so careless and like unserious, is because this is their job, but I don't think they really believe in it.
Alex, sort of your character, I think, also walks that line between there's an element of parody in him, but there's like real complication. It would be very easy for that to be a simplistically predatory relationship that he's pursuing, but it's not that. And so I'm wondering about how you and Amalia kind of identified what you thought that was motivating your character to try to sort of pursue all of these different women. What was he really after?
Well, it's just a really well-written script. I think that it was, maybe it could have been seen as more unsavory, or even though it is at times, it could be seen as more unsavory or something if it was written by someone else. But what I love about Amalia, and it's similar to how I approach things, is she kind of lives and dies by her characters. And I think, not speaking for you, but I could feel in the script, she loved Jeff. Like, she loves him. She just sees elements of him that are hilarious. And, it would be a disservice to the character to not completely make fun of myself and to not make fun of him. It would be, you have to be aware of how ridiculous it is so you can go there. But, nothing's funny about someone being ridiculous. What's funny is someone being ridiculously sincere. And so I always saw him as someone who just really saw himself as a victim of circumstance. And that's funny. Someone who doesn't see the situations they get themselves in, but they really see it as, oh, it's just such bad luck, and oh man, how did this happen? That's just immediately funny. So I think I just got that. I got that in reading the script. That, a lot of things that you need to do a lot of talking, a lot of mining, but this character was there. Amalia wrote up. He's a real guy. I met the real guy. So, and I didn't know it was based on a real guy. I went to the guy's house. This really nice person was totally weird, and then I was hanging out with him, and he started saying things that reminded me so much of the script. I started going, holy shit, I think this is the guy my character is based on. So then I was watching the way he sat, and I was watching the way, how he always takes off his shoes and sits a certain way, and was like microdosing mushrooms while talking to me, and it just made me laugh. So I found that in him. But there's a lot, I think these characters, you could easily make fun of these characters, but there's a lot of them in all of us. That's why the movie's really good, is I think it's just a sort of icky part of ourselves that maybe we keep locked away, but this movie was a good opportunity to kind of, it was an exorcism of those parts of ourselves in a funny way. It's a satire, which is real. It's,
But yeah, also, like, a lot of the characters, I keep on saying this, but I think it's important, and it's like they're very close to home for me. So I'm not, like, pointing a finger at them from the outside. I'm, like, deeply embedded in, like, that world, and like a lot of my friends are like this.
I was gonna say, I know Amalia in my personal life, and she definitely has a collection of weirdos around her. She likes the misfits.
we're all here.
I'm one of
drawn to the mama of the misfits.
Yeah, so like there's like I have so many friends who are like absolute fuck ups, but at the same time they're like extremely lovable, and like I think that the script was like developed that way. Like and that's how I make most of my work. I never like and I don't like just like pointing fingers unless I'm like sort of making fun of myself at some point.
He's like, because like when you would do a scene, like there were times where it's like I would do a scene and I'd be kind of laughing, like, isn't this that? And she go, no, you believe, she direct it like it's a drama. It's just when you look from the outside, and that's just we're, I guess,
and it is a drama in many ways, and I think the Argentinian cast really brought that seriousness into the film, and that was all planned and that was all orchestrated. So like the film was just like not like this like unserious thing.
Well, you love us too, right? You love us too.
Well, it's so truthful though, because I feel like with the way that Amalia directed it all, we would have like a script, but she would want us to deviate from it so that every take was just as fresh and original as the last one, so that what we were all delivering was just like pure truth, So, which is also why it's so funny too.
And that's why you got that tattoo, Pure Truth, right?
I don't have any tattoos.
You got Pure Truth, like Dave.
I have no tattoos at
You
all.
can tell them.
I don't have a tattoo, man.
Camila, I'm curious what you think what your understanding is, what your character sees in Jeff, wants out of the relationship with Jeff, and even maybe more broadly, like this group of interlopers, and then what turns her off in the end and that makes her go, nope, I'm not in it anymore.
¿Qué dice que vio tu personaje en Jeff para enamorarse de él en la película? El personaje.
Okay, so I don't know. I think if you talk with every woman in this room, all of us, we gustamos de alguien como
Yeah.
Jeff.
Like every single woman we've met that have seen the film has suffered a person like Jeff in their lives and like have been attracted to somebody like that, whether they like it or not. And I think that speaks to her character. Because like he can be very charming. I think it's like because we see like the behind the scenes of the character, but what she's seeing is like extremely charming foreigner. I think what was important for me as well is that I'm from a small town and I've been both sides of this story. And there's a desperation that comes from being from a very small place when like foreigners come in, and that like heightens the attraction for sure. So I think that's like you being in a small town, these people come out and like pay attention to you, and there's this like feeling and like this like acceleration.
Mole, right? She's also likes it mole.
But I think it accelerates things, and I think that's why there's like all these budding relationships happen, is because when you have a trip like that, it accelerates the emotions a lot.
Yeah, I think Manchi is a strong character, but with a lot of insecurity. So she saw Jeff and said, "Oh my God, this guy to other countries, an opportunity to an adventure, you know." So I think that is
Totally.
One last lightning round question before I let you go. Who of the Magic Farm team would be most likely to land you in the wrong country for something, and who would make as much of a good time out of it as Joe's character Justin does?
I think Dave and Jack.
I would land them in the wrong country. Alex.
You would keep us happy.
I don't seem like it right now, but normally I'm pretty silly.
Yeah, I think Simon would be like the person.
I think Joe would land us in the wrong country, honestly.
Thanks, Chloe.
And I agree that Simon would keep because he's the most kind of chill.
Yeah.
He
It was so cool to work with.
Good tone.
Because he was like,
Thank you, guys.
super chill.
Thank you.
And yeah, actually, like all the locals were very sad when Simon left.
Really?
Yeah.
Was sad. I know. I was sad.
Oh, that's very touching.